Hallelujah. He is risen.
The Lord has risen indeed. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. 2 hours. So the last time we saw Jesus on Good Friday, he said some very cryptic things on the cross after suffering very regally. He was on the cross and he looked at his mother and he said to his mother, "This is your son." And the person standing over here is named the beloved disciple. And he said to the beloved disciple, "This is your mother." And then he said, "I thirst." And then he said, "It is finished." And he gave up his spirit. So this morning, as we celebrate the day of resurrection, we are encountering the disciples and their confusion through the lens of John, in John's gospel. And through the 3 holy days which we had before this, we were following John's gospel. It's John that we read to learn about the last commandment that Jesus gives us, to love one another and to wash each other's feet. And then we hear John's gospel on Good Friday. That's the story we hear. So it's supposed to link together to the gospel we have today, which it does. One of the things that scholars are now saying about the beloved disciple is they're questioning the ancient wisdom that the beloved disciple is John, the writer of the gospel. There's a lot of reasons why they think it's somebody else, because John, unlike the other Gospels, is very particular in including the readers of the Gospel in the action, so that we are actually there with them, participating in what they're participating in. So it makes sense that the other disciple would be the reader of the Gospel, which is all of us. So when he is giving his mother to his new son, he is in essence telling the Virgin Mary that she is to consider us her child, and that we are to take Mary home with us, where she is going to live forever. And that's what the scripture says, that the other disciple takes Mary home with him immediately, and she stays there with him. She stays there with us. So here we have it on resurrection morning. There's the other beloved disciple with Peter. And if you see that there's a little competition between them, there is. Peter was very proud and a little bit spontaneous in his enthusiasm, and he always stepped in it. He did things a little too enthusiastically. So he thinks he's the best disciple. But the other disciple is racing right along with him. And if we're the other disciple, who gets to the tomb first? The other disciple does. Well, actually, Mary Magdalene got there first. Mary Magdalene is there, sobbing outside the tomb. She looks, first she sees that the stone has been rolled away. When she sees the stone rolled away, then she goes and gets the guys. And the guys are racing. So that's us, the beloved disciple, running with Peter. The beloved disciple gets there first and peers in and sees the death cloths, the swaddling lying on the bench, and the face piece lying by itself. And then the beloved disciple goes into the tomb first, and Peter comes second. So this is saying that we have priority over Peter, that we get there first, if you buy this theory, which we're going to borrow this morning. So when the angel appears to Mary Magdalene, she's the first one to look and see that there are actually angels in there. And the angels speak to her and say, "Mary, why are you weeping?" And she says, "They have taken away my Lord, and I don't know where they have put him." And she says, "He is not here. He is not here. He has risen." And behind her, Mary hears a voice that says her name, Mary. And she turns around and she sees the gardener. Now we know who the gardener is, right? Who's the gardener?
Jesus.
It's Jesus. This is actually, the author of this book is incredibly sneaky, how he puts these little helpers in there for us. This whole scene is set up to be the first day of creation. We are in the Garden of Eden. This is a new garden. The maker of the garden is Jesus, who is with God, in God, is God. So Jesus is the gardener. She was correct. He is the gardener. And when he says to her, Mary, again for the second time, she's looking right at him, so she doesn't need to turn. Why did he put that second turn in there? Because it's a turn of her spirit. It just does this complete somersault inside of her, saying, it isn't the gardener, it's Jesus. But it is the gardener who created everything, the heavens and the planets in them, and this is who is looking to her in her eyes. And then she does this beautiful human thing, trying to reach out and touch him, and he does not back away from her. He leans into her, but he says, do not touch me, for I have not yet ascended to my Lord and to your Lord. And she understands what he is saying. He has told them throughout the gospel that he is going to be raised up on a cross. He is going to be raised up from death, and he will be raised up into heaven. It's this trinity of raising, and he says it many times, but only when they actually see the cloths that he left when he was resurrected do they begin to believe that it had happened. Now, the way he leaves his funeral wrappings also has meaning. The body part is like a cocoon of a butterfly, and the face part is folded. No, it's rolled. It's rolled like a scroll. So that is to hint at the book of Exodus, to remind you that when you talk to God on the mountain as Moses did, you will come down from that mountain with your face glowing so brightly, it'll burn everybody's eyes. So you got to put a veil over your face. The fact that it's rolled up in a scroll shape is a hint that that's what this is about. So you see the scroll, you remember Moses, you know you can't look at Moses' face. Can you look at Jesus' face? Yes, Jesus has a face we can look at, a human face. So everything has changed. This is a new creation. When the other disciples go running back and Mary is left alone, she was the first one to see the stone rolled away. She is the first one to see Jesus himself in the guise of the gardener who created the garden. He tells her, go and tell the others what you have seen. She becomes the first apostle. The apostle is one who spreads the good news. So she's put in a place of primacy in this story, and Peter's given a little knock on the head because he's so competitive. He kind of comes in second with the beloved disciple, who's us, and Mary, who has her own role to do. We know from this story that we are to participate in the resurrection as it happens every day, when you wake every morning. Thank God that he rose from the dead. By rising from the dead, he makes us part of his new creation. We don't see things the same way anymore. We look for resurrection after painful things happen to us. I've experienced many resurrections myself. I think we need to practice resurrecting from our gloom and doom and despair and anger and pointing fingers. We need to just let it go and rise up, have a new day, and be grateful that we have these beautiful scriptures to guide us. He is risen indeed.